Hey, hello, Programming 12. Here we are again with a new project. This one is going to be our roguelike game, or, well, roguelike might be a bit much because I'm not sure how much procedural generation we'll do, but our RPG game, our game where we're going to have a character that's going to move around in the dungeon and fight monsters and gain up levels and improve and all that kind of stuff. So, so far, just like to get started, we're going to take it fairly gentle. This is sort of this is trying to start up. There we go. This is, the basic project we have so far, just to give you an idea of where we're starting. Today we'll build our intro screen, and we'll work on that and make it, use various aspects that we've been using. We're going to have a bit of a game that's happening here, where we have a character that's going to move around. You're not going to have to make the light radius yet. You're not going to have to make the map or the mini map. You're not going to have to make the exits. We'll do all those things in separate videos. But this is sort of the concept of the game. They're going to have some kind of virtual environment in which you can explore. And each room will possess, monsters and obstacles and treasure and all that kind of good stuff that you'll have fun with creating. So that's the idea. So here's what I'd like you to work on for the first, this was the first 2 days we've been working on this. Last class we got to work on this, and today as well. So here's the story. We have, first of all, making new projects, pretty obvious, but you got to start somewhere. And then we're going to add in the mode framework. So just to be clear, right now my mode framework is just the standard, mode framework. We got our if, intro, game, pause, game over. So these are your standard modes. We will probably be expanding this, however. We'll need some kind of like level up screen or place where we kind of buy or spend our points or whatever it is we gain to improve our character over time. Maybe it will be a store where we buy items and equipment. So that will be something to do at a future point. This is a great place to start. I would also say you should bring in your animated GIF class and your button class. I actually have both of those. Oh, actually, I haven't brought over my button class yet, so I'm a bit behind. I'm going to have to catch up to you folks. And once you've done that, you can just stick it in a tab somewhere and have some fun with that. Also, the button class. And then why don't you put all those things together just to make sure that that's going smoothly for you, and make a simple intro screen that has an animated GIF object that's actually animating, and also they have a button that will let you start the game. My game right now starts without a button, so I'll have to go change that and improve it. So there you go. That's the first step or I guess technically the first 4 steps to get going. That was a nice place to be done at the end of last class. If you didn't get there yet, then keep working on that. But be aware that probably today we're going to be moving a bit further on that. So if you're keeping track of how far you should be along the project, then I expect this to sort of already be done, or at least close to done, and then moving on to other things. So next, this is not that important, but sometimes all-consuming. Consider your color schemes for the game. I'll put my colors on teams, I think, actually, in case you're like, I don't know, those colors look nice, and you just want to grab some colors. So I'll put those on teams in the discussion channel, and you can post your schemes too if you think you got some sweet dungeon-esque color schemes. Then please feel free to share those. It's not really a programming thing, and some people aren't great at evaluating whether colors work together. So since it's a programming class, it's totally fine to share your color schemes, and you're not going to get evaluated on it. But it's kind of nice to make a game that looks nice, and colors make a big difference in that. So once you have that, you can draw the room. So just the walls and floor for now, and in class we discussed it. What it looks like is, wait for it. It's basically just 2 crossing lines. If you can see, I'll go to the corner. We have this line that crosses from this corner all the way to the opposite corner, and that's actually literally a line that goes from the top right-hand corner of the screen to the bottom left, and then there's an opposite line going from top left to bottom right. They just cross right through, and then drawing a rectangle. Inside of there is sort of the next stage to make the floor, and that will be great. You'll have sort of a facsimile of a floor and walls. That'll be a good place. If you want to spend a bit more time, you could download an image of a floor, maybe with some tile or something like that. You could even custom design your walls if you have images for that, or if you want to design your own, then that would be great, but not required at all. So please feel free to just plunk down a lovely rectangle for your floor and a lovely wall, or just lines really, for the walls. Okay, so that's that. Once you have that ready to go, then you'll be in a good position to build sort of the next things that we'll be doing in future videos. So things like those exits you saw, things like colliding into the walls. I guess we'll do in this video, but that's all important stuff that you'll be set up and ready to do. So the next stage after you got your room drawn is to create the game object class. So this is very much similar to the asteroids project, and that class is going to be our foundation upon which we build all of our other classes that are the things that are acting inside of the game. So you're going to consider what should go in there, and just to make sure we're on the same page as the videos go further, I'm happy to show you what I have so far, but do be prepared to expand upon this. So in my game object class, I have basically just a few things right now. I have a location, a velocity, and hit points. Location and velocity are p vectors because rotating things is sometimes really helpful. So we'll continue using those. And hit points is sort of like lives, except that in role-playing games, hit points tend to grow and be larger than 3 or 4. Oftentimes you can have dozens of hit points or hundreds of hit points, and that'll give us flexibility. You're most welcome to continue using sort of a lives concept and just have 3 hearts. So if you want to design your game differently, that's great. If you give yourself more hit points, then that gives you more range of damages though. So for example, if you have 100 hit points, then an enemy's spear might do 7 damage versus 3 damage, and that there's some room to experiment. But if you only have 3 lives, then an enemy's attack will always probably do 1 damage. Anything less will not hurt you, and anything more will be too much. So there's no flexibility for that. So you might be nice to give yourself some kind of number that's greater than just 3 lives. And I think we want to put this in game object because even things that won't have a lot of hit points, maybe they're just 1 hit, die, they still need to be able to die and be removed from the game. So that will allow us to sort of, when this gets to 0 or less, to remove those things from the games. So even things like bullets and arrows and fireballs and stuff will have hit points, but really only in name, and we'll just use that to delete them from the game when they're done their job. Okay, so that's my game object. Oh, I should mention, my constructor right now is pretty blank and not really doing a lot. So I think we could put this to better use. We'll talk about that, in a little bit. Our show function right now doesn't do anything, but my act function has a bit of code in it. I'm going to mention that it has your location.addVelocity, that's the movement code, and also the code for checking to hit for walls. I'm not going to show it to you because my numbers might differ from you. So it might be misleading to show you exactly what mine looks like. I made mine quite the formula, so I don't really want to taint your creativity by overriding your choices. But basically, all the objects shouldn't be able to go through the walls. So when I hit the wall, either this wall or that wall or whatever, I just kind of force myself to stop. And it's very similar to the old slider code. Remember the sliders where you're just sliding along the track, and if it gets greater than the end of the track, you just set it to the maximum value, and if it goes below the bottom of the track, you set it to the minimum value using if statements. That's basically what I'm doing. It's just a series of if statements, just checking my location and saying, hey, if it's too high, set it to the max. If it's too low, set it to the min, and that kind of stuff. So I put that in game object. I figure things like bullets and stuff probably should not crash into the walls, not go through the walls, I should say. They should crash into the walls, so that's good. Next, once you have your game object class, we'll create a hero class. The hero class is going to represent your character that you're going to move around in, and basically you want to make it so they move at the keyboard. They run into the walls, which you're already going to bake into the game object class, so you just really need to get your game object class working for you. And then I guess I put this comment like what should go in the hero, what should go in the game object. And as you're sort of making these decisions, basically think about, is this unique to the hero, or do other things want to possibly do these actions? So if it's unique to the hero, it goes in the hero class. If it's something that other classes might find useful, then it probably should go in the game object class. So far for my hero, hero extends game object. I just have a speed because I already have things like location and velocity and hit points that come from game object. So I've included speed. I figure this is going to be the first of many things that might upgrade over time. So maybe my character will have a certain like walking speed, and I can boost my walking speed by getting new items. You know, like I get a pair of like fleet shoes or something that like let me zoom around the map. Or maybe a spell that I can cast will enhance my speed. So by making it a variable instead of hard coding it, it's possible for me to adjust that on the fly. I also have my coordinates, and this is something that you won't be able to use just yet, but they're basically, where am I in the map of the game, and the hero, wherever it is, will sort of determine a lot of information about other things. Like what enemies are showing on the screen, or like what items, what treasures are showing on the screen, and so on. So here's my constructor, very basic. I don't think these values are anything in particularly interesting. I will say room X and Y is arbitrary. Speed, I just set to 5 because it's easy to test, but maybe it's a little bit slower would be good for actually like a level 1 weakling character. I just give myself 1 hit point just to make sure I don't die. And then my show function, I'm just showing. My act function is going to be all the stuff for the keyboard movement, and you already know how to do that, so I'm not going to go over that too much. You can look at your old projects. I will mention that we're not going to glide to a halt. Well, I guess you can make that happen if you want to. When you let go of the keys, you could slow down if you want. As if the ground is a little bit slippery or something. For me, I just halt when I let go of the keys, and that's fine. So yeah, basically put in that functionality. And of course, in order to make all this stuff work, you are going to need to have your array list. So you can stick your hero into the array list and animate that. So that's for me in my game function. I got a lot going on in my game because you saw that I have the all the darkness stuff going on. I've separated that into separate functions. So my draw game objects is basically that loop that goes through my objects array list and tells everything to act and show. So that's something you'll want to add in there too. Then you can add your hero. I am using similar to when we did the asteroids project. I am having like a my hero variable because a lot of things will want to look to that and read its coordinates and so on. So I have made that along with my objects list. Okay, so that's basically my project, and hopefully that gives you a good sense of what you're supposed to create. And we're going to have today's class to sort of get through all these things, and probably you'll be able to finish up without too much trouble. Some of you are still working on asteroids, so if you want to just do this over the long weekend, that would be great. And of course, if you're watching this sometime in the future where none of these dates make sense, then I hope you still learned lots about the beginning of the RPG project. Okay, thanks everybody.